Federal Executive Council holds inaugural meeting as President Bola Tinubu charges ministers to work towards a buoyant economy. Police Service Commission compulsorily retires 4 Deputy Inspectors General of Police following appointment of IGP Kayode Egbetokun. Well, welcome everyone to Politics Today. It's the beginning of a new week. I'm Terry Ikumi. Well, as the new week began, a new cabinet began its responsibilities. First, it's the inaugural FEC meeting. Now, the president has charged his cabinet to work towards creating a buoyant economy that will serve every Nigerian. He said this during his opening remarks at the inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House. The president restated his government agenda, which includes reforming the economy to deliver sustainable and inclusive growth and strengthen national security for peace and prosperity.
Do whatever we want on the assignment of responsibility. But all depends on you that if you stay focused, we will arrive at a better destination and the country will be better off for it. We must unlock the energy and natural resources of this country. We must start to produce for ourselves, dig ourselves out of the hole, focus on education, healthcare, make social investment that is essential for the development of our people. Our priority areas are defined in our economic programs. Every area is a priority, and you belong. In the driver's position to realize and make that priority a fulfilling promise to the entire nation and the continent of Africa.
Well, those are really strong words from the president's priority areas, and we will talk about the details of the FEC meeting and the president's directive with regards to cutting down the cost of governance. But first, the Inspector General of the Police Service Commission has compulsorily retired 4 Deputy Inspectors General of Police. This was contained in a statement signed by the head Press and Public Relations of the Commission, Ikechukwu Ani. The Police Service Commission says the action was taken in exercise of its statutory powers pursuant to the 3rd Schedule, Part 1M, Paragraph A and B of the 1999 Constitution, reinforced with Section 6 of the Commission's Establishment Act 2001, Paragraphs A, C, D, E, and F. Now, those affected are DIGs Dan Malam Mohammed, Moses Jitibo, Hafiz Inuwa, and Adeleke Bode. The statement reads in part, in the wake of the appointment of the Acting Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, on the 19th of June 2023 by President Bola Tinubu, the Commission had expected, in consonance with the revered tradition of discipline and regimented culture of the Nigerian police force, that those DIGs who were seniors in rank prior to his elevation will voluntarily apply for retirement or elect to leave the force. The Commission, having waited for ample time with no such application from any of them, took the decision to compulsorily retire them in order to uphold discipline, which is the bedrock of the force, and to discourage status reversal, which is inherently inimical to the exercise of authority by the Inspector General. And accordingly, the former DIGs have been mandated to immediately proceed on compulsory retirement with effect from Friday to 25th of August 2023. The Police Service Commission has also named their replacements. Now let's go to our lead story today. The Federal Executive Council meeting held its inaugural committee meeting today. I beg your pardon, the Federal Executive Council held its inaugural meeting today. And the president was very emphatic with regards to the economy. He was really focused on charging his ministers to ensure that they pay attention to the state of the economy. Recall that the president at the NBA conference had mentioned that he was concerned about the fact that the country was spending 90% of its revenue on service and debts. And with the state of the economy as enumerated or emphasized on by those who attended the NBA conference and even the World Bank, who had questioned if Nigeria was seriously interested in pushing forward its economy and made some suggestions. Tonight we'll take a look at the responsibilities ahead of this new cabinet with regards to pushing towards a buoyant economy, as the president put it. I'm joined by the chairman of the House Committee on Science and Tech, Honorable Dachung Musa Bagos. Welcome to Politics Today.
Thank you, Terry. Good evening, Nigeria.
Honorable, you followed appointment of ministers, swearing in, and now the inaugural FEC has held. It now shows that everything is in full swing. Are you as optimistic that this ministerial setup as it is now will deliver the dividends that the president has indeed hoped for with regards to his promises to Nigerians? Are you optimistic with regards to all that considering all you've seen so far?
Well, Terry, I will have to be patriotic at this particular level that every Nigerian citizen is very hopeful that the ministers that have just been sworn in line with the president's agenda, will be able to drive the economy to see how we'll be able to come out of the present situation that we are in. But first of all, government must own up to the fact that Nigerians are suffering with what we are going through on a daily basis by our people. So, meaning, and it's very good that they started on this very note, that look, they need to reform the economy. I could have so much doubt if we were talking of economic recovery, because government year in and year out talk about economy recovery, but no. But if we are now looking at reform, look at reform and restructuring the economy, then that we will have a little hope. But again, looking at reform of the economy, at what particular area, at what and how will that is the issue and the question that every Nigerian will be asking at this particular moment. Because Nigerians will need, in as much as they will have long, short-term plans, Nigerians need a short-term plan that will take them to the long-term plan. Because at the process and at the level that we are in now, and looking at even debt servicing, 90% of our IGR in debt servicing, it shows that there's a problem somewhere. So in problem somewhere, we have to be able to look at it critically. Let the ministers and the president not be economical or politically right at this particular moment. Tell Nigerians the true situations of what is truly on ground. And if so be, so that all of us, across party lines, across religious lines, across ethnic groups, we should be able to come together to see how we'll be able to reform the economy. And in reforming the economy, if the previous way of how things have been done is not working, this is a time that we need to be able to. So when I'm talking about restructuring, you know, when people talk about restructuring, they try to be able to look at, let's divide states, let's give, no. This is a time that we need to be able to look at how we're going to restructure, how we're going to be to reform. And the new Executive Council, in the next 6 months, what we should be able to looking at is that how can they be able to to work with the National Assembly in reforming the economy in the sense that there are a lot of legislation that needs to come into play to be able to boost the economy. But if it is with what we have at the present moment and with the way they want to reform I don't think they're going to get it. But a lot of legislation needs to come into play. Let me give you an example with the exclusive list. A lot of things are in the exclusive list that I don't see us getting any way forward without looking at the Constitution first, because a lot of things in the Constitution, especially the exclusive list, needs to get off the exclusive. The burden on the federal government is so huge that it will not and it cannot carry the economic reform that it so requires. I'm happy that in the 9th Assembly we were able to look at to drop the issue of rail, to drop the issue of power. So more needs to be done in terms of the federal road trunks.
But does it tell you that the state governments can shoulder these responsibilities? I mean, you look at how the state governments perform, and you think that if you saddle them with more responsibilities
Terry, it's not even us looking at what the state government needs to look at. Is to be able to look at what conducive environment can this legislation will be able to give to bring in foreign direct investment, that will be able to have a conducive environment for businessmen and businesses to strive in the country. If we are going to wait on government to completely reform the economy, then we will never do it. Now look at the West. The West, government don't depend. Government rather depend on business people for the government to be stable. But here in Nigeria and other parts of Africa, business people rely on government to succeed. So we need to be able to turn the table and twist the coin. Look, government needs to open up, give a conducive environment. And when business people now see that they have a conducive environment, when business people now see that they have legislation that they can come into the country to be able to open up, to be able to industrialize the country, not a way that just you have a monopoly of one business or two business people that will get tax rebate from government for them to build industries or for their businesses to strive. That is not the way to economy recovery. Economy recovery, when you look at insecurity, when you look at power, when you look at your transportation, be it the marine, be it water, all you look at all those areas. The business people that have the money, when I say, look, Nigeria is now ready for business. But when we just have to wait for government, that government, I want to bring in this, reduce tax for me, then we have not yet, we're not ready.
When we talk about government and how much they need the private sector, sometimes we tend to forget that the government we talk about should not only be the federal government. Yeah. The responsibility of addressing this issue of the economy also lies with the state government, doesn't it? So what will the state governments be doing in this regard? You talk about tax reforms and all those things that you talk about. Yeah. Revenue generation, which is critical as well. And the government is looking towards how it can boost that. But if the government continues to generate revenue and the states continue to come and take that revenue.
A lot of states, you see, the federal government as it is today, and that is why a lot of people have been talking about restructuring. A lot of states, if given the opportunity and if a lot of these burdens that are on the exclusive list, which lies with the federal government, states are being given the opportunity to do all this. Then the federal government, from the federation account, will rely on the states. Not the states now rely on the federal government. We have discussed this not once, not twice. Like in my state, I know with mineral resources within the state, we can be able to do that. We can be able to mine all the mineral resources that we have within our state. We'll be able to give the federal government whatsoever percentage we'll be able to give the federal government to run the federal government. And our state, with that, will be able to look, we have the issue of infrastructure development that we need to put in every state, and we will be able to do that. But not just to wait that the federal government should come and mine the mineral resources that are within our state. The mining cadastral should give license of what is happening within my state, and for us to come and start fighting and agitating for 13% or 10% derivation. These are issues that we need to sit down as a people to look at legislation very critically until the state is now viable, until the local government can stand on its own. Then we will now start looking at, oh, this local government, they have an interest to invest in this local government.
That is another thing. When you talk about the need for states to control their resources, if states control their resources and the local governments do not get to share from that, the resources, or even contribute because of the absence of the local government chairman, how is that going to work?
Absolutely. There is no way, if a state has its own autonomy, and every local government has its own autonomy within the state, automatically the local government chairman takes charge of security, takes charge of IGR, takes charge of infrastructure within the state. Like now, my state, the local government councils have been locked for over how many weeks now on issues that we know that it's purely political. Purely political. But if this issue of local government in my state and other places is being addressed, to have a local government that is being handled by the state governor, a local government that is being handled as a state governor, which he is the chief security officer, a local government that has autonomy, not a local government, again, when we are talking about handled by the state governor, supervised by the state governor, not to just wait for every local government to get allocation at the federal level. But when a local government has its own autonomy, it's the state governor that will even rely on the local government to bring in IGR into the state, the state coffers.
Speaking of IGR, there are concerns as to diversifying the economy. We've heard about that, by diversifying the economy for quite a while now, since the concerns about our oil, price of oil started to dwindle. Now, this administration has introduced the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy.
Yeah.
What do you think that this will bring to the table, and how would you advise?
The marine and blue economy, it's when you go to some certain countries that have a high level of coastal areas, you will see that that is one of the major source of IGR they have. And you want to talk about Nigeria, they want to talk about Lagos, Bayelsa, Rivers, and other states that can be able to generate. When you have that, it's not just about having a nomenclature. Like I said again, the legislation in it. We cannot just rely that we have not opened the coastal areas, that is only Port Harcourt, that you now have ships coming in. What of other areas? You can be, even when you dredge the River Benue, ships can come down, even down to Benue State to address the issue, the issues in the north. Ships can go down to other areas, down to Bayelsa, to address other issues. But when you catch everything in one place, even with the marine and the blue economy, what legislation do they have now on ground to open all those areas? This needs to be looked into.
Does it require legislation?
Absolutely. There are a lot of... Because now, the marine economy, Benue State cannot authoritatively take charge of that without the legislation, without allowing Benue State government, without allowing the House of Assembly to oversight and to check what everything belongs to the federal government. So these are issues that when we look at most of this legislation, we now look at states owning to the real resources, not just about the land through the Land Use Act, looking at what the state owns, The IGR belongs to the state. Whatsoever belongs to a local government should belong to the local government. The autonomy in that local government. I can tell you that Nigeria, within 5-10 years, the economy of this country, the reform that we are looking at will change. But when all of us, the local government chairman, the governor is waiting to come to FAC to receive what he will receive, gather his local government chairman and do FAC meeting and get whatever they want to get, and the local, it's so disheartening.
Honorable Bagga, so a lot of countries now are turning to technology to help drive their economies, which in turn improves their revenue generation. You're chairman of the House Committee on Science and Tech, and you've seen how tech startups in the country have been able to blossom into major companies, generating billions of dollars. How can this administration leverage on science and technology to improve revenue generation?
A lot. You see, COVID has opened our eyes to a lot of issues in terms of technology, in terms of science, in terms of innovation. There are a lot of things, I'm sure, before COVID in 2019 or 2018, you hardly even invite people to feature on your program through Zoom, when was Zoom known. So a lot of startups need to come into play. A lot of areas need to come into in terms of innovation. We are now looking at artificial intelligence. We are now looking at how we'll be able to bring technology in governance. When we bring technology into governance, I can tell you the cost of governance will reduce drastically, because people with all this startup, you can see people will have ideas. People will start thinking on how to be able to look into how to generate revenue on their own, not to always wait on monthly salaries. Because of technology, a lot of young guys are doing legitimate businesses and they're getting paid on daily basis. A lot of apps are being produced that people download and they get a lot of resources and a lot of revenue from those apps. Government needs to look in. So when governments sit down and say that within 4 years we are going to generate 5 million jobs, I categorically, I wouldn't say laugh, but smile. But I don't know, because I don't know how. Technology is the way forward. But when you say that within the next 4 years, you're going to open an enabling environment that 5 million youths will be self-reliant, 5 million youths can be able to live and to be able to generate their own income, I will now take you serious. But 5 million jobs, I don't know how you want to create those kind of jobs.
Okay, so you're more concerned about the environment, creating an enabling environment,
I can tell
than
you,
creating the jobs.
Exactly, but I can tell you that once we have enabling environment in this country,
jobs will
come. Okay. When we address the issue of insecurity, people will be ready to invest in this country. Once we address the issue of power, which is very key, you will see people will invest in this country. Because my desire and dream is that from that 774 local governments we have, each local government should have at least one industry. If each local government could be able to have one industry that has a lot of, almost up to 5,000 people under it, what are you now talking about?
That is private industries?
Exactly, private industries.
Okay.
Because we should be able to look away from government establishing all these industries. Lastly, Terry, on this issue of this fact, it gives me, or it takes away the joy in me that when after Federal Executive Council meeting, we will be saying that government has given contract to build roads. Government has no business in doing that. And when government is now saying that 2 billion, 3 billion, whatever billions of naira is to build, giving contracts for roads in this place, we can privatize the road sector. We can bring out legislation that states can take that priority. And once states open up that, it will drastically reduce the cost of governance from the federal government. And you go to places that when you see those roads, they pay toll to be. It's being run by a private individual.
Honorable Bagga, let's look at something else now, which also is connected to the cost of the revenue generation and saving money for the country. It is the cost of governance, which the president is making efforts to cut. Today, the president said specifically that the UN General Assembly meeting that's supposed to hold, only people who are supposed to be actively involved should go. Now, this is one way that the president thinks he is cutting down the cost of governance. Is this commendable? I ask this because I recall that during plenary on one or two occasions, there have been concerns as to the number of aides attached to ministers and what have you. So in this regard, with regard to cutting down the cost of governance, do you commend the president for this, and what else can be done?
Yeah, I will advise government. Yeah, I'm commending him on that. We should be able to look at how we were able to run government during the COVID era. Presidents were not traveling around the country, around the world because of COVID. They were addressing any assembly through Zoom or through technology. I just watched the BRICS meeting where Putin addressed the BRICS nation through Zoom. And whatsoever decision that was taken, he was part of that decision. If at this particular moment, at this point in time, that we know that if the president is leaving to another country, is going to cost us hundreds of millions of naira, if not going with so much and so many aides, even him, if he's going to sit down in Asu Rock and just address the UN through Zoom, so be it, because hundreds of millions of naira that he will take it and go and come back will address one or two issues in terms of healthcare. That will be able to. So I'm in support of that.
Another thing that I think Parliament would look at, I don't know if it's something worth considering from your perspective as a lawmaker, especially because there are also concerns as to how many trips the lawmakers make and how necessary they are outside this country. When you find those in the civil service going out for assignments, and the number, in most cases, is regarded as irrelevant. I know I've spoken with a number of lawmakers who have pointed out to the corruption in the civil service. Yeah. How is Parliament going to check something like this with regards to the number of travels, trips they make annually, and how important they are, not to mention the cost attached to them?
You see, that is why our embassies have been redundant. We have technical people. We have people that we have sent to every embassy. And when you look at what is spent on daily basis for these meetings, my concern is that if you are spending 10 million to travel out for a certain government function, the value of that 10 million back to the country should be 10 times of what you have taken. So we should be able to look at the value of what we have spent on you in going out. What is it adding to the country? It's not just, even if it is to build your own capacity, we should be able to look at it in the next 2 to 6 months, that value, what have you brought as change in your own immediate office? So year in, year out, what are those reviews that have been done?
That's an oversight function of the National Assembly, isn't it?
It's not just even an oversight function of the National Assembly.
No, I think specifically it's an oversight function of the National Assembly.
In as much,
we
not just oversight.
Be looking forward to the National Assembly bringing these things to the fore to say, with regards to this ministry, that ministry, this is what we've discovered and this is what we've decided can happen.
Yeah, let me give you an example with the Foreign Affairs Ministry. When we look at the budget of the Foreign Affairs, you see it's so bulky because of the aids that have been sent out for attaches and so on and so forth. But the question that I ask then is that, what are those business benefits that every ambassador has been able to bring back into the country for the period of 4 or 5 years that he stays in that very country? If you're an ambassador in a country, or if you're an attaché of government, and government is spending billions of naira through technical aid corps or whatever, what is the value that every ambassador? So this is a very serious issue that the president needs to look into. You should be able to start charging every ambassador that within the period of years that you are staying, we should be able to see the business opportunities that you have been able to bring back into the country. Don't just go out as an ambassador, and when your tenure has finished, you come back alone and you leave your family there to integrate into the system. So these are issues that we need to be able to look at value of monies that we spend in governance.
Honorable Dachung Bagos, thank you very much for your time on Politics Today.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Dachung Bagos is the chairman of House Committee on Science and Technology. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll give you a political roundup and we'll look at the concerns of marginalization by the people of Southern Kaduna. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Politics Today. Just before we get into our next conversation, let's serve you with your political roundup.
The Electoral Institute in Nigeria is asking the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to draw lessons from the conduct of the 2023 general elections to better its performances in the upcoming governorship elections in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa states. They need to study the various post-election reports and to improve performances in areas such as logistics and technology deployment and result management form the core of the discussions at the Professor Abubakar Momo's Memorial Lecture in Abuja. Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State says he's confident that his achievements in the last 3.5 years as governor come the November 11 governorship election in Imo State. Governor Uzodinma disclosed this at the second edition of the Olu Zone Development Forum Summit 2023 held at Nkwere local government area of the state.
You have seen what I've been able to do in less than 3 years. So if you allow me 8 years, you cannot imagine what I will do.
Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State has assured the people that the November 11 governorship election in the state will be conducted under a peaceful atmosphere. The governor, who spoke to his deputy governor, Mr. Edward Onoja, stated this in Olamaboro local government area of the state while receiving the campaigns from the People's Democratic Party, led by a former federal lawmaker, Senator Ataya Aidoko, into the ruling All Progressives Congress. In Abia State, the progressive Abia youths in the state are expressing concern over the nation's debt profile as it affects its foreign reserve. At a news conference in Umuahia, the state capital, the leader of the group urged the government to prioritize sectors that have great potential to utilize and improve the economy. To prioritize sectors that have great potential to improve the economy, such as manufacturing and funding of businesses for young people.
Now, the shouts of marginalization by the people of Southern Kaduna and Kaduna states are getting louder. The truth is, there is a twist to it, and that's what we'll try to find out tonight in Politics Today. I'm joined by Honorable Kennedy Musa, who's a former secretary of the defunct ANPP in Kaduna State and a founding member of the APC in the state. He is from Southern Kaduna. Welcome to Politics Today.
Thank you.
Honorable, we've had conversations in the public space with regards to your position, you, the people of Southern Kaduna, and as it concerns the ministerial appointments, perhaps federal appointments generally, but specifically the people of Southern Kaduna are asking that somebody from that area be appointed minister now that the Senate has withheld its confirmation of former Governor Nasir El-Rufai. Why?
That request is very, very germane. That request, I don't know how to put it, but you see, even if that request is granted, I dare say that it wouldn't have created the balance that is required. Let me just inform you and viewers that as we speak, as at the last 1 week, the present administration that just took off over 2 months ago has made 87 appointments, political appointments in the state. Only 18 are said to be from Southern Kaduna. And actually not Southern Kaduna. There are 3, 4, 5 people that are even from outside the state. The cry of marginalization is justified. There is oppression. It is beyond marginalization. It's oppression. there seems to be a desire by, quote and unquote, the powers that be, to muzzle out a certain people from a certain part of the state. This state was created at North Central State in 1967. There was a 1963 population census, followed up by a 73, followed up by 1991, another one, 2016. There are disputes. There is the politics of population itself. Then there is the creation of local governments that started from that 67. The creation of electoral wards, federal constituencies. The times we had almost a balance in constituency, state and federal. In 1990, 91, 92, the Babangida era, SDP, NRC parties, there was almost equal representation. As soon as that era passed, some people seized the opportunity of the military intervention to change the equation. What you now have is, in Kaduna South Senatorial District, that is of 8 local governments, and Southern Kaduna that is of 12 local governments, there's a difference. There's a senatorial district, there are 3 in every state, but there's Southern Kaduna that is 1/2 of the state. And I tell you, by the 2016 population census and 2006 population census, Southern Kaduna had a population of about 3.9 million people, out of the state's 6.7 as at that count. More than half of the state. But when it comes to representation, even at the state level, ditto the federal level, you have only Zango and Katab local government that has 2 state representatives at the state assembly. Every other one has 1. Federal constituency, out of the 8 senatorial district local governments, you have only 5 representatives. We have a total of 16 from Kaduna State. About 10, 11 are in the northern part of the state. So it is not just marginalization.
And this is not a function of electoral outcomes, is it?
No.
With regard to the elective positions.
No.
I know there are 2 different things here, appointive positions and elective positions.
See, elections, the limitations of wards and constituencies is a function of INEC. And I know that none has ever been conducted according to population. It's supposed to have been done every 10 years. You see, it has not been done since this experiment started in 1999. And if you go by electoral outcomes, for instance, Southern Kaduna has been the mainstay of the People's Democratic Party for all of these years. But up till now, nothing has changed in terms of wards or polling units. In fact, you have witnessed a decrease.
Why do you think that this is happening? I recall that one of your complaints was that this started during the time of the immediate past governor, Nasir El-Rufai.
No, it didn't start during his time.
So it
was exacerbated.
It was exacerbated during his time.
Yes.
Why do you think this has festered?
It boils down to the character of the individual. Before Governor Nasir El-Rufai, there were 2, 3 governors.
So the question is more about why do you believe that the people of Kaduna, Southern Kaduna, are being marginalized?
It's because they are being marginalized. It's not a belief.
No, why is it happening?
Statistics show.
Why is it happening?
Why is it happening? Like I said, I believe there is, would I call it a hidden agenda? Some wicked individuals take opportunity of being in government to seek to cause discontent, to cause, just oppress people.
For political reasons?
Just maybe political reasons, but in addition to spiritual reasons.
So you think, so is this marginalization against the Christians in Southern Kaduna or the entire people of Southern Kaduna?
The entire people of Southern Kaduna and the Christians in the state. This is very, very unfortunate because you will find Christians in the northern part of the indigenous Christians. They are not settlers. They are Hausa people who are also being marginalized.
Well, interestingly, I think the Muslim Youth Foundation of Southern Kaduna released a statement where they said that they are the ones being marginalized. So the question now comes to the Muslims in Southern Kaduna say they are marginalized. The Christians in Southern Kaduna say they are marginalized. You people are not working together. You're working at cross purposes instead of working together to achieve this freedom that you want.
Unfortunately,
or inclusion that you want.
Unfortunately, what democracy does is allow freedom of expression. So you would find that even in the quest for state creation, for instance, not just in Kaduna State, anywhere at all, when the people get a state, you'll find people who were not considered a minority before or were bogged together as a minority in a large group, they'll suddenly find themselves either as minority or majority, as the case may be. Then those who find themselves on the other end will begin to cry for, against marginalization. So this is a situation. In Southern Kaduna, generally Christians, who are predominant in the southern part of the state, have been crying for marginalization for God knows how long. And we used to have the Southern Kaduna People's Union, SOKAPU, that is the umbrella body. It still is. But years down the line, a new an organization was put together that would cater for only the Muslims in Southern Kaduna called SOKAMUDA. And then it is from that you find offshoots from SOKAMUDA, you find Muslim youth organizations and things like that. So when you hear of this, it's like anticipating there is probably going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Let's quickly shout so that we will be recognized as well. Because if you were to just focus on Southern Kaduna, some people who are together as Southern Kaduna as minority when you look at the entire state would now see themselves as a minority when you are focusing only on Southern Kaduna. So it keeps going down like that.
So there's some form of disunity for
there is disunity
in Southern Kaduna.
There is disunity. Unfortunately, it is fueled by political leaders. That's why you hear the mention of Nasiru El-Rufai. Like I said, it didn't start in his time, but he is one person that was so bold to just say things, whether it is right or wrong, he didn't care. Chief Security Officer of the state would make allegations that would be rebuffed by the chief of police in the state. A governor would make statements that the police commissioner would rebuke, and say it's not true regarding security. So when you hear things like, these people don't vote us, these people don't deserve these appointments, that is unconstitutional. The Constitution says nobody should be profiled like that. There should not be such segregation against people on account of their tribe or religion.
How are you addressing this matter or going about seeking redress with regards to the new person at the helm of affairs now, Uba Sani? He's an entirely different person and he's been there for 3 months. How are you approaching this matter such that he can pay attention to it? Have you even made attempts to approach him with regards to this matter? And what
attempts? It's starting with some of us in the APC, because we are expected to be closer to him than other people in Southern Kaduna. We have been reaching out to some of our own people in the party hierarchy and some who are already in political offices. Some commissioners we have some special advisors from Southern Kaduna. We have the party officers from Southern Kaduna. So discussions have been ongoing. Now, when the Senate withheld its confirmation for the immediate past governor, again, members of the APC within Southern Kaduna have also made the attempt, using the special advisor, political, and other commissioners like I mentioned, to also reach out to the governor and to say, please, look at this as an opportunity. See this as an opportunity to create some semblance of balance, of carrying people along. It will interest you to know that the president, Asiwaju, when he appointed the chief of defense staff, a lot of people celebrated it. But a few days later, maybe in less than a week, we had people from the Islamic religion, Malams, going on social media and castigating the president. And some were even trying to profile the general as if he did not deserve the appointment, or he was appointed to achieve a particular aim that was sinister. I mean, it's very surprising that a whole region that had suffered so much insecurity, so much attacks.
Well, let me ask you this question just as we close. Are you basically concerned about appointment or governance as well? And also, based on 3 months in office of Governor Obasani, do his actions suggest to you that he would be interested in governance, improving governance in Southern Kaduna?
So far, I would answer that in 2 parts. We are not just interested in appointments. There's this thing about, I call the politics of appointments. It serves to just make people believe that you are being carried along, but that's not the truth. This thing can be hollow. You can be appointed and you will not be effective. You will not be able to help the people. Appointments generally ought to be representative of the entire place. That's why the Constitution put it there. The spirit of the Constitution is to ensure that every part is represented, whether it's in the executive or in the legislature. But when you find individuals who are chief executives of state making appointments to the exclusion of other parts, it begins to call to question their intentions. You begin to wonder whether they really want to carry people along. I just give you a statistic now. You can check to confirm. 87, you have 18 people. I hope the governor would not toe the line of the former governor, because the former governor, in the closing days, social media, what do you call it now, clip, leaked, when he was saying to the Islamic ulama that he decided to appoint a Southern Kaduna person, a lady, but a Muslim, because the Christian aid-dominated areas were not voting APC. Now, that is against the spirit of both the APC constitution and the national constitution.
Very well, then. Well, sadly, we're out of time. Honorable Kennedy Musa, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on Politics today. And I believe that we'll talk about this a little more where we can get the other part of it, perhaps the side of the governor and the other part of Southern Kaduna, the Muslim community, to speak on this, to understand if you're both speaking from the same side of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, down the line, political leaders succeeded in dividing us.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
You know.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Well, just as we say goodbye on Politics today, something caught our attention over the weekend, yesterday and today. The rift between the Edo State governor and his deputy may just have intensified. Mr. Shaibu, we learned, had to walk away from the interdenominational Thanksgiving church service yesterday, which was to mark Edo State's 32nd year anniversary, which held at the Festival Hall Government House. There you can see Mr. Shaibu speaking to a security aide of the governor, trying to perhaps get access to the governor, but he was denied that access and eventually bowed to the governor of the wife, who eventually reciprocated that. Another video, which time wouldn't allow us show you, shows him being refused entry with his cameraman. And that's all the time we have on Politics today. A very big thank you to you. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.